So here we are. I did not get a chance to race on Monday because of a rain delay. I had to get back in time for some things, so I had to skip on Monday. And on Tuesday, that course has a giant hill in it called Schlitz Park, and I don't do that. So I showed up Wednesday, which I thought I might miss too, because as I was talking to people, everyone was telling me that Wednesday, in some respects, is harder than Tuesday. But I'd never done this course, so I certainly wanted to give it a go. So beautiful, beautiful day. And this race is in Port Washington, Wisconsin. And believe it or not, I've never been to that town before. And man, I was impressed. What a cool, cool little town. So if you are looking for something to do in Wisconsin, I would suggest a visit to Port Washington. It was really pretty. Looked like some really nice cycling. It's just far enough away from Milwaukee to still get some good roads. There's our first little hi, how you doing? So we're off. Course, sorry, the field was 42 or so. I'm not sure. So somewhere in that ballpark. It was a good group. So I don't know if you're hearing that ding, but that's I had Facebook open. Sorry, and my friend, teammate John Lester just finished the Trans Am Race Across America this evening, and everyone is just going bonkers online, as well they should. What an amazing accomplishment. 4,267 miles, and he finished it in, what, 18 and a half days, 19 days, something like that. So just unbelievable. He was second place in the race, and we're all just so proud and excited for him. So very, very cool. Which makes this little romp around a crit course look hilarious. So anyway, there's our friend from the pony shop, and I think he must have worked on his turning last night, as he's better than the last video, so good job. But I still kind of wanted to get away from him. So this downhill was pretty ripping. Looked at my Garmin, had me at a 41 mile an hour max, which obviously was on this part of the course. So it was a lot of fun to rip down this thing. Definitely had a good time. The going up part, not as much fun. So that's life. The group was off to a pretty relaxed start, and then somebody lit the fuse, I think on the second lap, which has already happened. People started shaking and baking. So it was a fun course. So what we're going to discover here is the problem of racing at the end, at the back of the field. So, I guess it's kind of hard to see even in the rearview mirror how many people are back there, but I'm definitely not in the middle, probably closer to the end, which is not the end of the world. But the problem that occurs, especially with the hilly course that I'm learning after sort of thinking through this video, and what I want to talk about is that you're going to get a lot of gaps when guys get popped. So it's just going to create more problems, and that's eventually what snuffed me out, was trying to close those gaps again and again and again took their toll. So here we get a little respite going up the hill, which is nice. And I feel like I closed them pretty well, and it was an interesting race physically for me because I felt great, and then boom, I mean, just lights out. I did not feel great, just like that. So I have no problems with my preparation, my warm-up, my hydration, none of those things. The bike was fine, just, I don't know. Our area where I train is not very hilly at all, so I certainly have that excuse I can fall back on, is I don't have a lot of hill experience. I mean, I have experience, but these little hills again and again and again and again and again and again and again, they're hard to find around here for us to just get this sort of repeat effort like this. So yeah, it didn't work out well for me. So had a nice chat with a guy in the parking lot. He came in from New York for the series, and I think he was a little surprised at the caliber of rider that we have here in this series. And I talked to another friend of mine. We were talking about I think somebody told me there were 7 ex-National Masters champions in this field, the Masters 1-2-3 field, so it is just stacked with talent. Some ex-pros are in here. We've talked about that in the past. It's just stacked with talent. So there's definitely two strata of riders in this race. There's the people that can do it and the people that can't. There's a few people that kind of go in the middle. Like Mike Budd had a bad day or two, but then I think he got 5th yesterday at a very, very hard Schlitz Park course, and he's done really well in that course in the past, and he did really well today. So good for Mike. He's finding his legs toward the end of the week, or middle of the week, I guess, so that's great. And yeah, so some explosive efforts here. And then I'm going to try to duck into the group and get whatever sort of draft I can up this road. The wind is coming from left to right. It's a little bit of a headwind. It's not so terrible because of this little valley in the hill. So the hill, you definitely notice the wind is not such a huge effect on us at this point. So, you know, maybe that guy's saddle is just too, yeah, I think that's his problem. That's why his bike moves so much. His saddle's just too tall. Yeah, that's my opinion. Maybe get a fit. None of my business, right? So, interesting. I feel like these guys don't like me very much because they keep riding away from me day after day after day. Like they're just desperate to get away from me. I'm not sure what I did to them, but we'll see. So the black and blue right there, I believe that person got 2nd place, and a rider from Simet, P-S-I-M-E-T, I think is how it's said. Or I don't know how it's said, but that's how it's spelled. I believe they're 99.9% sure they're a wheel manufacturer in the Chicagoland area, and the racer who won this course, I believe, is Work. Is his name. So I've not met him, but those two boys had a breakaway and they were riding. They seemed very unaffected when they came around the final turn here after I got pulled. So that's what happened to me. I got through about not even halfway through the race and I got pulled. That's why this race cast is a little bit short, but it'd be a good interval workout if you want to mute my voice and train on the trainer in the winter. Every time we go up the hill, you can settle in for a 1-minute effort. And every time we go around, you can maybe take a break for 3 minutes. So that'd be my suggestion for this video. Get a 24-minute interval workout climbing the hills when we do. And then you can mute my lovely voice and play some rockin' tunes and have some fun. So this turn I took a little too inside. I did that a couple times and it was really bugging me. There was a lot more speed to be had on the outside of that turn. And I do get it right eventually, so we'll just pay attention to that next time I come around one of these turns. I finally figure that out, going down the start-finish straight and get edged over to the correct side of that turn so I can take it nice and wide. And really, in theory, you didn't have to hit brakes on these turns. They're pretty sharp and downhill and all that stuff, but for the most part, you could get through without having to touch the brakes if you had a clean set of wheels, which the only reason I got a clean set of wheels later is because I get dropped. But in the group, there was lots of breaks, which is fine. There should be, but it definitely you lost some speed. So here we got guys that are already suffering a bit, and I feel great. No problem. This is going to work out well for me. I'm gonna, I have no illusions I'm going to compete really high up in this type of race, but I'm hoping to finish with the group so I can get you guys a full video. But that's just not going to happen. That is not going to happen today, my friends. Spoiler alert. Alright. So I'm not sure in reality what I could do differently to prepare for this race. Where I live, there's just not any hills. So a lot of these guys, not a lot of them, but a few of them that I'm lucky enough to be friends with on Strava, I can watch their rides and I see that they're getting 2,700 feet of climbing in a 50-mile ride. It takes me in the neighborhood of well over 100 miles to get 2,500 feet of climbing on a typical 100-mile route around our area. It is just pancake flat. So that's evidenced in how I race crits too. So I'm pretty good sprinter, and I can do all right on a flat course, and I don't mind technical turns and all that stuff. But these hills are pretty tough on me. So especially these bigger, longer ones. So I mean, if it's a little punchy one, it's no problem because it kind of favors the sprinter legs to be able to pop over those things. But on these longer ones, if you're a little more familiar with hilly terrain, I think you're going to be in good shape. I was hesitating there because I was going to say if you're a climber, but the person who got second place definitely does not have a body like a climber. He's built bigger than me, and he didn't seem to be struggling too much. So now we're getting some separation though. There's my friend from New York. Goodbye, friend from New York. And I think on the next lap there's going to be a pretty good amount of carnage, where I just felt like I felt great. I felt like, oh man, this is going to be okay for me. I'm going to pass a whole bunch of people here, but it was not okay. Well, maybe it's this lap. Yep, there's a lot of bodies in the road on this one. So now we're going to get a little gap. See, oh, that's interesting. That guy, because I think that guy got second place in the whole thing. So maybe he's just not even warmed up yet. So I'm going to close up this little gap eventually. And this is interesting. This is the good part about doing these videos, is this is a lot of why I do it. Hopefully you get something out of it, but at the same time I learn a lot. So yesterday I was upset with myself for not just getting on the gas and closing the gap appropriately. Now this time, right back there, I thought, okay, close the gap, and as you can see, I didn't really get that done. However, what's happening here is you see 0 watts for a long time. So I am tucked in a completely downhill aero tuck, Tour de France style, trying to catch this wheel, and I'm going to late brake it so I can catch this person's wheel. I guess I didn't do a very good job at that, as well as I thought in my head. But again, the camera makes it look like I'm further, but I'd say I'm pretty latched on at this point, so I'm not so upset about that. Yeah, so just something I thought about. I guess I didn't really execute that part of it as well. So I'm feeling good about myself. I'm looking up the road, and I'm seeing 15, 20 guys, and I'm still hanging in there. There's my wide turn. That's the right way to do that corner. Way less effort to catch that wheel. Now my friend here is going to have a moment, I believe, and I am going to punch around him, or maybe it's a couple guys up here. But we're still just hammering up this hill, and it hurts, and we're shredding people. So yeah, good, a respite. So I'm checking behind me to see where. See that there's the gentleman in the blue shorts. He has latched back on. Oh, look at that gap we have. I mean, I feel like, yeah, I'm with strong guys. And here's the problem. This gap was pretty devastating, and I thought, that's going to suck. So I closed that up. And then here's the next problem. There's my friend Carlos. I couldn't believe Carlos was there. So I kind of slow up next to him. Well, not slow up, but I get in front of him in the international sign of, hey, grab my wheel. And then if you see him barking behind me, he's saying, close it, close it, close it, get that wheel, get the wheel, get the wheel. So he's cheering me on, which is great. And we get the group. So I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I'm up here with Carlos, who's somebody I certainly respect. And I feel like my heart is not blowing up yet. Now this one hurt. Oh, sorry about that. This one hurt. So going downhill, feeling like I have to close that gap. And then there's going to be one more coming on the start-finish line that's just a lot to take. So I think some of this nervousness of trying to close all these gaps is what got me spit out the back. And it's an interesting point, too, I thought about recovery. So a lot of these guys can do an effort like that in a breakaway or whatever the case is, and then they can recover. So here's this gap, and I think, oh, I better close that. I guess that was kind of my gap, but anyway, I closed that, and then I see this next one up the road. This is absolutely what cost me the race. So I feel like I need to close this before we get on the hill because I won't be able to. What I probably should have done is just settled in behind those guys and relaxed. Because again, my mission today was not to win this race, it was to survive, and the point of survival was back there. Alright, so now I'm up the road with some really, really strong riders, and I feel good about myself, but it's about to go sideways, my friends. That's just a lot. That's a long time at 500 watts. Yep, that was a long, long time. And then, okay, so a couple guys go by me, and I'm thinking, okay, that's not so bad. I can hang. And then Carlos tells me to get moving. Can't do it. Appreciate the support, though. That was nice. And I think right here I'm going to pull off to the side. And yeah, I flicked my elbow at that dude and just said, I am cashed out. Look at that, man. There was the group. Ugh. It's so easy when you're sitting here watching with a microphone and thinking to yourself, why wouldn't you just stay on that wheel? Yeah, bummer. So a couple of the stragglers go by. I don't even make an attempt to get on that wheel. I mean, mentally my game is just over. I'm done. I came here probably expecting this to happen, and that's exactly what happened. So again, not again maybe, but for the first time, a mental error. I guess again, because earlier this week with that little equipment failure, that cost me a race too. So it's getting old, I have to say, driving an hour and a half to race for 20 minutes. And yeah, I'd like to fix that in the second half of the week. So hopefully we can do that. I'm hoping to get a couple guest commentators, actually. I had some communication with somebody that's pretty well known in the cycling world, and hoping I can figure out the technology side to get the video put together in a way that he can comment on it remotely, and that'll be fun. As actually, this person wrote a book about cycling tactics, so it'd be interesting to hear what he has to say and critiquing my performance. I told him, I said, well, I will save that bullet until I can at least complete a race. So anyway, so yeah, I grabbed this wheel for a minute, and I think we had a similar pace and a similar mindset. It would have worked if I had a little bit more strength, but I appreciate that he slowed up for me, but I just couldn't help. And yeah, that's still a lot of watts, no matter how restful it seems. So my heart came down, but I don't know, I just couldn't collect myself. So when this guy drops me here in a second, I go by some of the spectators, and I remember looking at him like, I'm okay, you don't have to call an ambulance. But I'm sure they were thinking, you gonna make it, buddy? So, recovery from efforts, that's I don't know, that's a tricky thing for me to work on, I guess. Sounds painful, however I would fix that. I guess I'll have that conversation with my coach after Toad. But I have a feeling I'm not going to like the prescription to that ailment. Just a guess. But I will say this, I don't like this. I don't like having this view of getting dropped. So I sat at the race afterwards, and I've done this plenty of times in years past, where I sit and have a think, so to speak, and just try to soak in that feeling of frustration, and that fuels me on a lot of crappy weather days later in the year where I don't feel like riding. So I'll purposely sit and watch those guys, and I'll let myself soak in my sorrow, and then in November or March or whatever all those crappy, there's so many crappy months to choose from, then I can draw on that feeling. So that was Ultra Racer Dave Hazy and a new friend of mine, Bryant, also on the Cymet team. They were willing to help me for a second, but I did not have the strength to join them. Appreciate the offer, though. He'd be an interesting one to look up. He's raced Ram numerous times. Dave, the Attitude, well, he owns Attitude Sports, but Attitude Sports rider that went past me there, not the Cymet rider. It'd be interesting to see how many hours he gets in. But it would also be interesting to see what his goals are. He may have a ton of hours, like I've been talking about in these last couple weeks, but the structure for what he's doing in those hours might have a completely different goal than this crit racing mission that I'm on, so who knows. I have to ask him someday. Alright. So we are going to be pretty much wrapping up the footage. Somehow a group comes from behind here. I'm pretty sure. And it was a decent little group. I think they were given one to go, maybe. I'm not sure. I guess I should not talk about it till I see them coming. But somewhere in here I end up riding into the finish with another Northeast Wisconsin rider, Derek, and then we both get pulled. So, yep, that's it. So here comes this group. 6 guys or so, somewhere in there. And here's my friend Derek. So I think I was a good excuse for him to drop off that group because he's gassed. Or maybe he was just being overly generous to me because I am just way off that group already. Yeah, no hope. My legs are just concrete at this point. Honestly, it wasn't legs. It was just really my lungs. Just I could not recover from those efforts of closing the gap, closing the gap, closing the gap. So it's interesting. I'm trying to lay that out in my head what that would look like in a workout. For me and my wattage numbers, it's something like, okay, go. I guess over-unders is what they are really, but go. My threshold somewhere around 300, so I go 280 for 2 minutes, and then go 30 seconds at 330, and back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth, something like that, just to kind of stimulate my muscles to remember that process. But got me, man. Yeah. But on the flip side, I did get to see Port Washington, and it's a really pretty town. So next time the fam and I are going through Milwaukee area looking for a place to stop for ice cream or coffee or shopping or something like that, I think we're going to hit up Port Washington. It was quite nice. I can't believe I've never been there. Unbelievable to me. I'm surprised there aren't more races around there. It's really pretty terrain. There must not be a strong cycling community. I don't know. If you're out there in Port Washington, I think you should put a race on. Best regards, Brian. Well, I would like to thank you for joining the Brian Davis Races YouTube channel. If you do get a chance, I would greatly appreciate it if you would like the video, subscribe, or comment. And if you do comment, I'm actually curious if you have a favorite kit manufacturer from years past or current year or whatever the case is. So thanks for that feedback, and I will look forward to another race coming up soon. We're done with hills and toads, so maybe things will get better. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.